The field is now set in a runoff special election for Georgia's 13th Congressional District. Following Tuesday's special election, Dr. Everton Blair and Marcy Scott emerged as the top two contenders here and will face off in the next round. We've had a lot of voting going on across Georgia. Yesterday, we heard from Marcy Scott, so today we are joined by Dr. Everton Blair to talk about the results, his campaign, and what's ahead. Thank you so much for taking some time to be with us live this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's great to be here.
Well, I'm going to start by giving you the floor for constituents who are watching here in the 13th Congressional District, which, as we were just kind of saying, is a very large swath of counties here in northern Georgia. Yep. What should they know about you, and why should you be their selection when they head back to the voting booth?
You're definitely right that it is many counties, 6 to be exact. So it stretches all the way from Gwinnett, all the way to Newton County, all the way down to Clayton County. They should know that I'm a product of the district. I went to public schools in the 13th Congressional District, graduated and did really well because of the investments that were available to me in the district. And then I came back home to make sure that those investments continued to flourish and exist for so many others. When I joined the school board, it was the beginning of change and the beginning of new leadership that was more reflective and representative of the constituents. And that's the same energy that I brought then that I want to bring to the United States Congress and to the Hill, because we need to have more capacity and more innovation and honestly just fresh ideas so we can be leading forward. And I believe that there's so much at stake right now that no matter how long or short your time of service can be, to have a bold leader who is battle tested and also unafraid to take on the powerful and unbought and unbossed by anybody else provides us with an opportunity to really show people what good leadership could look like. And we need to do more. Things are way too crazy up there, and not enough is being done for hardworking families down here. And we cannot continue to lead with a status quo regime or agenda. We've got to adapt, we've got to change, and we've got to do better for our hardworking families in this community.
You mentioned no matter how long or how short your time is. I think it can be somewhat confusing for some voters because they've been back to the polls. We've had primaries, we've had this, and now there's a special election. There are other elections that are going on across, even outside of this jurisdiction particularly. So it can become kind of confusing, but we do know that this is a special election. This will be serving through January.
That's right.
So during that time, there's still work to be done up in the nation's capital. So what type of things are you specifically hoping that you could address if elected?
You're right to name that the sequence is confusing, right? Because this election happened after the previous one, but it takes place immediately, and the person can be sworn in as soon as the next day after the results conclude. And that's important in part because we still need to pass the budget. There are a ton of important votes that are happening in Washington, D.C., from anything from market structure to the appropriations that could come down to the district to the important votes that need to happen on foreign policy. It really behooves us to know exactly where your leader stands, and this seat should be earned. The voters need to know exactly what they're getting and what they can expect. I am being very clear. I've been clear throughout this entire campaign. You ask me a question on policy, I'll answer it straight up. And that's the benefit of having been vetted for over the course of over a year now in this campaign. And I want that to be a part of what people can expect from their leader. Somebody who is visible, clear, and accessible. You'll see me in community because I live in the 13th Congressional District. I'm the only candidate that does, actually, the only Democrat that lives in this district. And with that, I am personally feeling the experience that so many of the other constituents in the district are. And that's what I want to take, that approach, and then that also ability to look forward and to think about things that we need to continue to lead on when we have our new representative in January. And that's inclusive of these data centers that are propping up all over the suburbs, all over these suburban counties, without regulation and without accountability or transparency, all the way down to making sure that Clayton County finally gets some of the airport revenue, right? I want to be leading on the issues that are impacting direct citizens and neighbors in Georgia's 13th. And that just requires an astute policy nuance that, I believe that we've been vetted over the course of this campaign. And I'm excited to lead with.
There's a lot going on locally that needs to be addressed in the nation's capital, but there's also a lot of conversation on foreign policy. Where do you stand when it comes to the war or conflict in Iran?
I would have definitely signed on to the Massey Amendment and his war powers resolution. I believe that this war in Iran makes no sense for the American people to be investing and doing any sort of war on the behalf of another country. So we need to end that war as soon as possible. And I believe that we need to rein in this administration from going rogue and taking actions that are not only unprecedented, but also illegal, holding the people in this administration accountable for the rogue actions that are taking place. It's not enough just to have a placeholder in this seat. We need somebody who is going to use power to stand up for the hardworking Americans that do not feel like they have their voices well served.
You said not enough to just be a placeholder.
Mm-hmm.
You have not been in Congress before, but you have held public office.
That's right.
What would you do, and how would you make sure that things ramp up so there is no lapse for constituents in terms of the service that they will see when you are able to take over if elected and keep that going for whoever's elected in the fall?
Yeah, I've prided myself in my past, even as the Gwinnett County School Board member and chairman of our system, on being very visible. People know how to reach me. They can contact at evertonblair.com is the email I give to everyone. You can reach me directly, and I love to be that visible and accessible presence. Constituent services are really important to me too, and I want to expand them and make sure people know where they can find their congressperson, exactly when and where. I want to hold office hours and town halls, and I want to be able to start a rhythm that then Jasmine Clark can lead from in January. And I also want to be able to take issues and new ideas across the district and then present them in ways that we can continue to lead next cycle and next fiscal year with more appropriations, right? I think there's talk about the $40 million that has already been requested, and I will make sure that that comes to the district. And the staff is working very hard already to make sure that that happens. But my experience already having worked in DC, I worked in the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence under President Obama, and I got a close grasp of the Hill. And many staffers of mine, friends of mine, were staffers at that time. And so I've gotten to see the sausage as it's made. And I think that experience allows me to enter on day one ready to know exactly what I can do in just a short matter of time.
Let me ask you this. We just were talking about how kind of confusing it can be for some people with so many different races happening all over. What would you say to constituents who are feeling a little bit of voter fatigue about why it is still important to go out and vote? Especially, you know, it feels like we see the older set, especially for younger people. Why is it still important to make sure that you still come out? This is now a runoff for this special election. Why is it so important and worth their time to make sure that they get out and cast their ballots?
Well, it depends on who our leader is, right? That the type of leadership that we could have that is innovative, transparent, and ready to do more, right? It is not enough to continue everything as it has been, because that is not working. Look around, right? There is so much pain that people are feeling, not just economically, but mentally and psychologically. And if we don't address the fact that the same things that we have been doing are not working effectively, and we need to do more for our hardworking families, and we need to approach things differently, strategically differently. That is how we're going to lead forward. And I want people to see the possibility in what they can expect from their leader when they pick somebody who is going to be honest about the things that they can or cannot accomplish. And you'll get a straightforward response from me. And I want people to also be clued into the experience of leading. I want people to be able to see and to know exactly what this course and journey looks like. So I'll be very transparent on sharing with people how things are going, and then allowing people to participate in not just this election, but in the work that we need to do. Folks that reach out to me know that they can see themselves reflected in the work, because I'm a member of this community, and I want people to be engaged and to also feel some ownership in what we can do together.
And we just have a few final moments here. What are your closing remarks to folks that are watching who are constituents of the 13th Congressional District? What would you say to them right now as we gear up for this runoff?
Congress needs more Democrats with a backbone who shoot straight, keep it real, and who are invested and rooted in the communities where they serve. It's not just one thing to live in the district, which I do, but it's also something to have a proven track record of working with community and working to benefit community. And that's the thing that requires different leaders. And if we want different results, we need to pick different leaders. And that is what this election is really about.
All right, Dr. Everton Blair, running for Congress in the 13th Congressional District. Again, this is a runoff, so make sure that you check with your jurisdiction, whatever county in the 13th Congressional District that you may be a part of. Make sure that you check and find out when and where you can make your voice heard. Dr. Everton Blair, thank you so much for making some time for us today.